What do we want?
I think that's why you're here in the panel, to tell us exactly what is wrong with us.
This thing's now becoming so spiritual. Huh? Yeah, because trust me, even now we are having conversations about men. You can even count the men that are in the audience. And they know this is happening. So I don't know, I'm also trying to ask myself, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with us? I getting it. But I think so far it's high time for us to pull each other together. To also, our women should also come on board and pull our hands so we can move together to ensure that we leave no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To my brother Michael, on the same, I'd just like to get your quick reaction on that. And also, what are some of the innovative solutions that we can check to ensure that men are actively involved when it comes to SRHR?
Thank you so much. When I was introducing
Please,
myself,
the audience, if you can just pay attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you. When I was introducing myself, remember I said I'm untamed feminist, meaning I'm fighting a lot for the girl child in my entire programming. So the reason as to why men are left out, I'll go straight to them based on few researches we've done. When it comes to accessing SRH services, ladies have advantage of predisposed because ladies often visit healthcare centers more than men. It is true. If you go to the hospital, you'll find more ladies in the hospital because of various issues like of SRH than men. And even if I have friends, if I ask them, when was the last time you visited a VCT and get your status known? They will say, my wife went there 2 weeks ago. She was okay, then I'm also okay. Now you see the problem now is us men. So no one will incorporate men in this, in receiving these services if we don't step up and stand up for ourselves and join the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that has been, mentioned a lot. So just want to jump to this other side before we come to Joseph. What should be done? Specifically, just react to what should we do?
Maybe if I go first, just to sort of add of what they're saying before I give my perspective. I think there is a notion and a socialization that men have that ukiji express, you're being vulnerable. And this brings a barrier in terms of communication. And therefore, if you're not able to communicate rightfully, you can't be out there and put yourself in such spaces where you're able to be aware about your reproductive health. And so this begs the question, why can't we as men collaborate with women? Because in the morning, tulikuwa na session and we were talking about menstrual health. And I heard a lot of men say they would not be afraid to carry a pad and take it to another woman. Why? Because they believe in the spirit of collaboration and they are trying also to fight hygiene, poverty, and period shame. Why can't we also bring on board women to help us with our challenges and going down with this SRHR mantle? So I think it is just an issue of collaboration, and as men, let us not be intimidated. The fact that women are taking up leadership spots and the fact that women are trying to do all this in themselves, it means they are just seeing an opportunity where they are better at to implement. So I think ni more of collaboration, yeah.
Thank you so much. What's coming out clearly is men should not look at opening up as vulnerability. That is one. And the next thing is collaboration with women to make things easier and faster so we can move faster. I
have something contradictory.
I'll come to you, Ruel. I'll give you 1 minute. So let's go to Joseph, because the work that you do, mostly, you've mentioned the sugar belt area. You're an expert when it comes to, the triple threat. Can you just please highlight that part in relation to men and exactly what we can do?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Uhuru, for that question. How many people understand triple threat here? How many men understand in the audience what triple threat are? Awako? Okay, I see one hand there. Can you be able just to mention the three?
Good afternoon. My name is Magero. The first threat, I think we are eradicating gender-based violence. Two, teenage pregnancies amongst our teenagers. And then three, the number of new HIV infections.
Okay. So one thing I want to mention is that men are usually sidelined when it comes to discussions towards the triple threats that we are talking about. Remember, there's nowhere that it's written that GBV are only made for women, right? But here comes a situation that there are men that are really suffering because of domestic violence within their homes, but they cannot be able to come out just to come and discuss with their peers and other people. Because right now, there was a situation where this man, there was a case that we were able to handle, where a man went to report that the wife has been beating her several times. But when the man got to the police station, he was able to get a police lady. And just the way the police lady was able to look at that issue and discriminate that particular man, when the man got home, the man was able to try commit suicide. And you find that as some issues that the mind tried to create to commit suicide, and people are not that. For us to be able to achieve gender equality, we still need to do a lot of work when it comes to empowering of women. That is something that research has been able to clearly highlighted, that we really need to do a lot of empowerment to women. But now, when we look at the issue of teenage pregnancy, for someone to get pregnant, there are two people that are involved, right? A male and a female. But why do you want to talk to this girl and have dialogue with the girl, discuss with them on how they can be able to prevent that, and you're leaving the other aspect, the other party? And the other party that you're leaving is also a contributor to this particular aspect. So that is one thing that we really need to look at. For us to be able to address this particular, we really need to be able to look into ways on how can we be able to demystify the norms and the masculinity within those particular parameters. Then again, we really need to do a lot of advocacy and awareness creation, because some of these issues are because of misinformation and lack of knowledge about this particular issue that we are speaking about here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll just pass the mic to Ruel. He had something to say before we jump into the audience. So.
You, 1, 2. Okay, sawa.
In less than 1 minute.
Chondro mkuu. I think it's not an issue about collaboration majorly. I'm sorry to comment like that, but we can't, as much as we say women are empowered, we also can't lean on women to say men need to be empowered through women at the same time. It also needs for us to take initiative and say, if this is an issue, if we're talking about triple threats, right? If it's GBV, most of the perpetrators are men, right? Let men call out other men. If it's issue on teenage pregnancies, if it's issues on teenage pregnancies, if the young girl is kicked out of school and kicked out of home, let the boy child be kicked out of school and be kicked out of home, right? So it's a two-way traffic about understanding that let men call out men. Yawai kitu nanisumbua sana. Yeah, you know, in a trauma. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so majorly, it's us to call out men and say that this is wrong. And then it comes down to bro codes. What are we talking about in our cliques, right? If the conversation is not calling other men out, then we're going to have the same conversation 50 years after I'm dead, right? So it's high time that we stop saying like, ni sawa tu huyu anaongea, as long as I know personally I am not like that. That general population will generalize and say men are trash. They won't say like that one is not trash. They'll say everyone is trash, unless we actually sit and say it's high time. Conversations need to happen. I'm starting coming from this chair. Conversations need to happen, and we call out men and hold men accountable, right? Mini Kijua, you're my friend, and you beat your girlfriend, I will call you out and say, like, that's not nice. And even if it's possible, take action against you. I understand you're my bro, but if you're hurting someone else, you will hurt me at the end of the line. So it is what it is, man. Yeah. Thanks.
We can just get done with that. I think that.
Yeah, maybe can I just,
okay. I think
add something just to build on what Lola mentioned.
in less than 30 seconds.
Actually, 1 second.
1 second is over, but it's fine.
All right. I think we need to be so intentional when we want to be allies with women. In that, let's stop complaining, men. Let's stop complaining. We already know our issues. Let's come up with solutions. That's it.
Thank you so much. So you want to react to that? Or let us go to the audience, then we'll come back to you. So in the audience, our very able moderator in the audience, this is what I want to ask. Only 2 people. What is that one issue in relation to men that we run away from addressing? What is that one burning question that umesema utaki kutoka hapa before it's answered? We are about to jump into a very technical discussion when it comes to tech innovations and all that, because I'm sitting here with in this panel with a lot of technical gurus. So I'll just like to get like 2 questions on burning issue. I think we have one there, and then the next here. So we'll come back to you. We'll have plenty of that. And if you can also address it to someone, we'll appreciate that.
My question is about why men think equality is a pie. That is my question. Please remind me your name.
Tony.
So Tony, there's something you said that caught my attention. Ulisema the women should help the men, should bring the men on board. You guys are not infants. We cannot bring you guys on board. Join us on board. Equality is not a pie.
Sorry, would you please stand up because we are streaming? So if you're speaking, so that also people when you're online wanaweza kuona. Sawa?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I was just that. Why do men think equality is a pie? If our rights are, if women's rights are realized, why do men think theirs will end? That's my question.
The other question, we'll react to those questions. We'll come back. It's here, this gentleman here. Please stand up. It's not a question. It's not a question for him. We can get the question there. Sorry, our moderator. It's not a question.
boy child. So to us, kitu naweza add what we've forgotten is about mental health. To boy child, let us boy child to speak, and let us ladies support us. Also,
what's the question? Excuse, please speak.
So my question is,
please give him time. Give him time.
My question is, let us boy child speak. Tuongee story ya mental health. Mental health boy child wanapitia, they're not speaking out. In our woman, that's why unapata their reaction to ladies is about mental health nakuwa so high. So to us and ladies and everyone, also ni poa to us boy child, tafadhali msiniue tafadhali. Naona microphone iko juu nataka kuongea, but mental health to boy child inauma. Wengi do you see suicidal, waongei ile traditional tukisema boy child afai kuongea. Now it's time to ongee. So boy child,
thank you.
Kwa boy child, let us speak out.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'll just like to clarify something. I think the question that was asked there is in terms of like when men look into equality, they think when we speak about women's rights, it's like we are taking away men's rights. So that is a question. You're asking someone here. So for clarification, any other thing, we have a segment for that. So please just allow me to continue with the panel. So if you can have quick reactions to that, like in a minute or so before we jump into that discussion. But before we jump into that, I think Bozi has something to say.
Ruel, maybe you didn't get me right. I was just saying that we can not particularly rely on, but we can leverage on having women around. And maybe just to clarify, I think as men we must recognize our individual actions that impact SRHR, and this starts with every aspect of our general well-being, kuanzia mental health, all the way to these other things. So yeah, that's basically it.
So let me go first. So I just want to ask one question. When the boy child, Prezo students said that women should also support men, why were you shouting? So that is what we are still talking about, because actually that is a challenge. Because men, we've seen a number of men like me. The foundation of that particular organization that I'm working in was out of the injustices that I saw back then when I was a child. And that's the reason why we are trying to be able to work and ensure that we have a free space where women and men can be able to exist peacefully. But this thing is a two-way traffic. We really need to be able to support each other so that we have that particular world that we want as individuals. Thank you.
When I hear the audience shouting, now that's the conversation. That is now the conversation that we want to have, so that we understand each other from perspective. Why do we need to involve men in our discussions? So that I remember, I don't think whether the lady is still in the audience. They went from Minnesota. He said it takes two to. It takes two to. Yes, and we'll only come at the bottom of these issues if we start discussion like now. We understand each other as we share and we see what role will a man play and what role will ladies play when we want to address a particular issue. And that's now the conversation, and it has to be bold. Sawa sawa.
Mimi ninaweza tu sema kwa kifupi. I think this conversation, particularly this conversation that we're having now, I'm sorry to say, but doesn't have to involve women. It's the role that men have to play. It's the role that we have to play, right? 2027, hapo sasa. You know, it's the role that men have to play, right? Here, I think we have to talk about accountability. We have to talk about, thanks. You see, I think that's the conversation we need to have, because I'm looking at this conversation from my perspective. What is my role and my responsibility to ensure that this conversation, I am not left out, and if there's an issue, how is it being addressed? How am I be able to address it, right? It's not about how we can involve women. You see, when you're talking about mental health, right? I have been, my depression issue has been public. I have made that my mental health journey public for like 2 years, right? And it's something I'm still talking about. That's me working towards getting better, right? Having said women, maybe that's a branch, right? But the root and the stem and everything else has to involve what is my responsibility. And I think that's where the conversation should be going. My 10 cents.
So what I like from what Ruel has just said is, because even when you look at the topic of today was, how can men? Yeah, it was not like, how can men and women? If we had that conversation, we would have been talking about different things. So if you can just base our answers based on what we can do. And the reason for this particular conversation is because we can demystify things and figure out how are we moving forward as a society. Even if it's collaborative, we are looking at one angle from the man's perspective, from the men's perspective. Exactly, what can we do? Yes, to Tony, then we dive into something different.
I think it's like really read my mind. I wanted to also go that direction, but I think
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. I'm very, very, very sure. That's why I was so in a hurry to like answer before you took it. But what I can say is, when we come, I think now the talk is becoming a bit technical. I think when we want to talk about issues, equity and equality, let's not make it be so radical. Let's approach it in a very calm way to find solutions that can address our issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you'll be the first to respond to this. Because this is a very technical, panel, and all of us here have been involved in the digital world, and I will not repeat what is digital media, what is media. Of course, we've had that conversation from the onset of the PDF. So exactly, when you look into the digital spaces, how can we tap into innovations to make sure that we bring men closer to the conversation of sexual reproductive health and rights?
All right. Thank you so much. I think we need to really look into the materials that we use to address these issues more so on men, and how best we can make men be creative to address their own issues. I see sometimes we have men online shooting on poets, shooting on different documentaries just to try to express themselves. So also, let's normalize the conversation online, putting the men voice at the center to lead this conversation so that we can address our own issues here.
Thank you so much. Turuel, on the same question, what are you doing online to ensure that men are closer to this particular conversation?
Mimi ni nini sifanyi online? Ni OnlyFans tu imebaki. Nikifungua buta follow.
Support.
Thanks. But I think I'm in a position to stand and say I use my platforms until on a hack IG, but I use my platforms to generate conversations. And here is where this conversation also comes in, because I use social media as a means of advocacy, right? But my biggest haters are men. My biggest haters are men. And this is why, right? I identify as a queer man, right? And that's not something I rub onto people's faces, but that's what men tend to base their arguments from. I'll be having conversations about how to engage men when it comes to HIV, how you and your spouse can live, positively when you're living with HIV, when it comes to pregnancy, when it comes to, STIs and all that. But at the end of the day, some man somewhere will just use my sexuality to derive the conversation from it. You're missing the whole point just because of the biasness that someone has, right? And that is where sometimes I will use that as an opportunity to be able to tell this man, where's the focus? Because we're not talking about my sexuality. Where's my sexuality in this conversation, right? I'm posting about HIV, but all of a sudden, you've derived it to sexuality. Focus. Ulipimwa mwisho lini, and then the person blocks me, right? Which is fine. I mean, it's just another Tuesday at the office, So it's using my platform to generate conversations about SRHR in general. When we're talking about HIV, STIs, teenage pregnancies, GBV, I do all that. But if you choose to focus on one thing and one thing only, you're completely missing the whole point of what it is, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ruel.
Yeah.
If you can pass the mic, I think we have limited mics here. Yeah.
It's okay. Going on to the same question, over the past years, we've been reaching out to men in perceived their meeting areas to reach out to advocate for the change. We've been visiting men in maybe pool dens, in the clubs, and maybe in the border sheds, and that thing now is coming to pass because the technology is running very high, very fast, and we need to catch up with the technology. So nowadays, what I do with a bigger team, we do short skits, and these skits, we ensure they are circulated very fast, even into the WhatsApp groups, TikTok, so that men get this information real time, so that they become change agents of their own issues real-time addressing issues of SRH. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A quick reaction to the same question.
Okay. One thing that I really want to social media play a critical role when it comes to we've put male involvement at the center of our intervention and programming approach. So you'll be able to see in a number of our TikTok live, men are taking part in particular discussions when it comes to GBV issues. The men who are taking part of in this particular engagement. Then also when you look at our tweet spaces and tweet chats, we are ensuring that when it's something to do with sexual reproductive health, then we ensure that men are at the center of that particular discussion so that they feel involved. And other men can also be able to look at that and say, why are these people, if these people are talking about this, can I be able to emulate this and also ensure that we are able to work as a unit. So that is one thing that we really need to do, and also cascade it down to other organizations also.
Thank you so much. We can have that same reaction to Bozi, then we'll also take other questions.
I'd like to say that social media and we should rely on it. Personally, from my own page, my personal page on Twitter, I never shy away from tweeting about things. I'll tweet about it no matter how liberal it is or how unwanted it is. I'll tweet about it, and at the end of the day, this is the discussion we need to have. It doesn't matter if we agree, but at least you'll walk out with something productive. So yeah, let us take on the challenge to even go out there and use social media to advocate for issues affecting fellow men. Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. Is there any other person, or rather, do we have anyone in the audience who understands why we are streaming? We are speaking about the power of digital media. And since you're here, we can only speak to you at this minute, right? But when we stream, because it will be there for the entire time until we decide to delete it, it's a conversation that people can come and still listen to that conversation. So when we tap into social media, when you tap into digital media as a whole, we have that power of speaking to many people at once. Ruel has testified to the fact that he can be having conversations with people pertaining, let's say, for example, HIV and AIDS. And is able to speak to, let's say, thousands and thousands of people, which is very hard for him to do that. Kama atakalisha hapa at 1,000. It is very expensive to host like those sessions. But with the power of social media, it is way easier. And we are just taking a turn here because also my very able MC has told me that we don't have time on our side. I'd just like to go to the audience. And by the way, questions ni, this is my question. Sawa, we don't want a reaction ama nini. We promise that. Someone specific, because they've been here for that particular time, you understand who's on what side. Kuna tua triple threat huku, we have different, panelists here. So if we can get quick questions, then we can see. Tuntaka wenye wajaongea kwanza. Sawa, hapa then tuende pale. Then stand.
Hello, my name is Pauline. I'm from an organization called Most at Risk Young Mothers and Teenage Girls Living with HIV Initiative, Moyote. And my question will go to Untamed Feminists. Yes. So I know we were talking about innovation and digital. And right now, what we don't talk about, bado hatujafikisha to that rules ya women, sindio? Meaning so many men are in leadership positions. So we don't talk on men in leadership. And when we talk, the way Ruel was saying, accountable responsibility of men when it comes to SRHR. Okay, what are the strategic conversations? What are the strategic ways to ensure sustainable conversation when us as male, we love you allies, but it's now your time to shine.
when it comes to your positions, your leadership position, even in digital platforms, Bozi. So it's your time to shine. So what are the strategic ways we can bring this sustainable conversation on board? Like, it's no longer about male involvement, but strategic ways on bringing the conversation, this conversation to men. Yes, thank you.
So we'll just pause it at there, then get a quick reaction, then we continue. Cynthia, it will be easier like that in a minute or so.
He's saying he's going to forget the answer, so I give him first.
So,
yeah, thank you so much. So just a quick response. There's what we're doing is called change mentalities. For those who follow, maybe you've seen that. That is, I believe, something so sustainable that we do. More so, we go to men's settings, whatever they are, with whatever they're doing, be it in the pool, be it in the border yards, and we have these chats with them. Also, for those who are in last year's RHNK, I know this year there's also a conference. Come with your apply, please submit your abstract. So we did what you call Youth Cave side conversation. And we're doing it on a daily basis. So I believe this is something that if you can take it to the community, it can work best to engage these men. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Just to add on what he's saying, there are various strategic plans that are in place. First, in every program,